Very good evening, friends. Welcome to a very exciting session between two very talented authors, uh, Shibu Kochery and Antara Banerjee. They will be in conversation on Shibu's latest book, Faith and the Beloved. I am really looking forward to the interaction, and I'm sure each one of you will have a very enjoyable evening. So, before I hand over to Antara, who will be moderating the session, let me quickly introduce the two very eminent writers. I start with Antara. She's a marketing, communication, and branding specialist. She's also an award winning author of the books The Goddess in Flesh and To Be a Woman, as well as a trilingual poet with the book Pieces of a Tormented Mind, to her credit. Her works have featured in anthologies like The Kali Project, Peacocks in a Dream, OPA, Freedom Raga, Erothanatos, Macabre Tales, Chrysanthemum Chronicles, to name a few. She is the Chairperson Communications at Rakshak Foundation and an active commentator on social issues, as well as women's issues. She's council member, India-Canada Bilateral Business Council. She's also been a speaker at prestigious forums like the Kala Ghoda, the AKLF, the Rakshak Debates, Women's Economic Forum, Bhawanipur Educational Society Literature Events, Gorky Sadan Literary Events, E3 Energy Convention, and so on. She has also conducted various discussions and debates in various fora. Masters from Goldsmith College, London, and graduate from Presidency College, Calcutta. She is the recipient of Sanmarg Aparajita Award 2019, Young Achiever Literature and Udan Empowering Women Awards 2017 for her contribution in women-centric literature, among many other awards and recognitions conferred on her. Antara, thank you so much for being here this evening, and we look forward to you moderating the session. And congratulations for all your achievements.
Thank you so much, Mona.
Okay. Most welcome. Now, Kochery Shibu, the best-selling and award-winning author of Men and Dreams in the Dhauladhar, graduated from the prestigious National Academy, Khadak Wasla, in 1981. He has served in the Indian Navy and commanded 2 warships. Post his retirement, Shibu has executed hydroelectric projects in the Kochery River Basin in Karnataka, Beas River Basin in Himachal, and Teesta River Basin in Sikkim. He holds a postgraduate degree in Defense Studies from Chennai University and an MA in English Literature from Pune University. Shibu has changed tack from the snow-clad mountains to the blue oceans and has been associated with the setting up of a shipping company in India. Faith and the Beloved is his second book. Many of the characters in the novel are inspired from those whom he has encountered during his extensive travel. Shibu was born in Kochi, Kangrapadi, and now lives in Bangalore with his wife and daughter. Thank you, Shibu, for once again coming live on our platform on Readers and Writers Club, and wish both of you all the very best for the next 45 to 50 minutes. Thank you so much. Over to you, Antara.
Thank you so much, Mona. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mona. Shibu, I think I should start with a little bit of my thought on the book. That I've read your book, and it's an amazingly complicated book. I mean, there are so many characters, and you have placed them all across India and the world, and you have brought in, events like the 26/11 and Prabhakaran's death, and all these, and it made it such a racy and heady mix of events that it's a real page turner. So it's I mean, I have really enjoyed reading it, and it's very hard to put, as we say, unput downable.
Thank you so much, Andhra. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm very glad that we have spoke about Daladar as well in an event earlier, and now we are again together speaking about your second novel. So my first question to you, Shibu, will be that I can definitely say that this is a much more faster paced novel than Dhaladar. And what makes you go delve deeper into the thriller genre? So I just wanted to know your special interest in this genre.
So, when I wrote the first novel, that was with a very deliberate intent to bring out the ordinary, or I would say the extraordinary life of the ordinary people in the hydroelectric power projects, a story which has never been told, and possibly they may not find another one like it. It's very tough unless you live in the environment. You cannot write about it. So in that first novel, I had, it was experimental to the extent that it had a mixture of classical writing, thriller, and technical fiction. So of course, as usual, it went with like some people liked it, some disliked it. So the second book, by choice, I decided to focus on thriller, which is kind of my favorite also in the yesteryears.
Right.
So I said I will work on a thriller, but again with a variation, because here also you'll find a large part of it is in a documentary style or information style, which is again part of the classical style of writing. So some of the readers have already told me that it's you sprint and then you drift, and then you sprint and then you drift. So it kind of takes the pace away, but it was by design. It is I have decided it should be like this, so it was written like that.
Yes, I
So
have also felt that it is very reportage like. Uh, I mean, it doesn't delve into a lot of emotions of the characters. That is what I see. It is very fleeting. You have a very fleeting reference to the emotions of the characters. Rather, the incidents are very fast paced. This happens, then that happens, and then that happens, and then this happens, and then it again goes to another character. So it's very interesting. And one thing that I was thinking so many times when I was reading your book is, Agatha Christie. She's one of the greatest thriller writers. She has written books with special protagonists like Poirot or Miss Marple. But I find the books which do not have any protagonist to be the best of her writing. So here also you don't have a main protagonist, someone who is tying everything together. Everything is happening at different places, and they by chance come together in a very complicated way. So that reference kept coming to my mind. Agatha Christie, and her books. I love her books without the main protagonist. So I was thinking about that, and I was equating that to your writing. Uh, that was did is it by design that you didn't have a main protagonist?
no, this thought had crossed my mind, because many of the readers after the first book said, "Are you going to continue with your protagonist from the first novel?" So some of them even said, "We would like to know what happens. Would you like to continue?" There were some readers who had given such feedback. We would like to know what happens.
Right.
Maybe could you come up with a sequel? I gave it a
Right.
lot of thought. Then I said no. I said, So that novel was written with a certain kind of background and certain right, and I didn't want to carry that forward. So
Right.
I decided to start afresh. And the thing about thrillers is, especially if you involve an organization like LTT, then the canvas will become large because they played on a
Yes.
kind of global canvas. They were not
Global
local players.
basis. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So to that extent, the canvas and the scope and the kind of things they did, which are unimaginable even today, the levels to which
Mm-hmm.
they went to, all kinds of things. There is nothing by the book, and but nothing that they have not thought about. I mean, every
Right.
trick in the book and every trick outside the book, and thinking out of the box. So many things they've done.
Mm-hmm.
So when you write like that, definitely yes, it does. It will not be easy, and it will not
Yeah.
be linear, straightforward. So that of
Yes.
course, that I mean, and I have had some exposure to them, so I guess you
Mm-hmm.
know that it will not be fair unless you represent the level to which they had gone.
Yes. And your professional and personal qualification, and also your professional commitments, I think, have helped you a lot in knowing all these things in detail, I guess. Is it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the sense that the LTT that has kind of been almost for, let's say, 3 decades. From 2008, we work backwards almost for about 3 decades. They were part and
Mm-hmm.
parcel of our Indian life, and they're kind of everywhere.
Yes.
So, of course, by
Mm-hmm.
nature of my job, we had far more exposure than what by virtue of being in uniform. Of course, we were exposed to far more than what otherwise one would have been. But none of the material that is discussed or is all from the, I would say, the open source. There is no classified
Mm-hmm.
information that has been used. But yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do have an exposure to the way they operate and how they do things.
Mm-hmm.
That part, yes. And I
Yes.
mean,
So
by virtue of
that
being in
makes
uniform,
that.
that makes your job also.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. Shibu, another thing, I have noticed that there are two things that have made a comeback in your second novel as well. One is Kochery, the
Yes.
martial art form. Yes. And Heidel Project. Would you like to say something about it?
I mean, of course, it's one is that the again that was both were deliberately by choice because I believe color is the is something which we need to talk more about. When I say we means so anything about India or anything that has got value, which is very old and which had the Kalari as a arts form had a kind of they were the equivalent of let's say the samurais of let's say the Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But samurais in
Mm-hmm.
Japan are in the reading world. People who read, I'm talking about the English
Mm-hmm.
reading audience. They're far more
Right.
exposed to the samurais and their exploits than let's say the exploits of the warriors of this the culinary martial arts. So if you see the culinary
Right.
martial arts, they were kind of in similar way for almost about 10 decades. This is a recorded oral history, not recorded history. Oral history of their deep and unbelievable skills in martial arts and their kind of achievements. And
Mm-hmm.
possibly I don't know that the female
Shibu.
warrior ever produced in India.
Acha. Okay. Shibu, I wanted to
Sorry.
know what is this secret code about Kalari? You have spoken about it in Daladar as well as here you have spoken about it. What is the secret code or secret?
The-
Yes.
there is no secret code. Actually, one of the things is if you try Googling on coloring, you will get
Mm-hmm.
very little information.
Yeah.
Unfortunate part, while there are many
Yeah.
books written and there are many movies written, that
Mm-hmm.
information has not been passed on to the open domain. So this is
Right.
something
Right.
which we grew up with, 4 decades of tradition of bringing it to light. That is something which needs to be told.
Right.
That
Mm-hmm.
that this is a great martial arts, and for the English reading audience, many of them do find that this
Mm-hmm.
is quite maybe even amazing at times to know that we had, let's say, again I told you, the
Mm-hmm.
best female martial arts warrior of all times was from this crowd. There's a lady by name Unni Archa, who single-handedly could take on a gang of 15, 20 on the ground. So such kind of things need to be told. It's one thing to say that it's India is a country of we need to empower women, but at least about the women who have done great things, why you have to bring it out, no? Whether it's Kittur Chennamma, whether it's Unni Archa, or so this is one way of bringing it out. So there is that's there is a reference to that also. It's a kind of bringing up. I'm just telling that from that point of perspective.
Okay. That's really nice to know. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about Kochery? Because in the novels we see that there are some great moves, and then there is some revenge thing associated with it. So can you tell us a little bit about
No,
that?
see, the thing is like this, if you read, and I'll just equate to make it easy, when you read, when you see the Japanese movies, the Chinese movies on martial arts, you'll find there's one martial art house and there's another martial arts house. And there are times when they clash with each other, and if somebody is killed, then there has to be a counter given. So this was something very, so this was very similar in the yester years. In the Kocheries used to be actually, again, was like a martial arts school. So you each, like for example, each region had a martial arts school, and there was a guru there, and he had the students were 15 or 20. So the very often it was the tradition in the, let's say, for almost 10 decades in the Kerala kingdoms, settlement of disputes was first by a cockfight. If they didn't agree to that, second was by dueling. So you engage one dueler from your side, other guy engage, and the winner takes it out. And that was a battle to death. So these warriors, where they used to duel, officially it is allowed. And there are so many instances of their duels between two famous rival warriors. It's something like Arjun and, you call that Arjun and Karn taking on each other. So there was many such glorified duels of these warriors, both men and women, fighting, and one guy has to die. And that is how the thing is settled. So there is nothing. So when you go into a duel, means one guy wins and the other guy gets killed. So
then there is nothing in between. It is life or death. Win or death.
Win or death. So when you play by that code, so these Kocheries which are training with them also, they practice that. If any of their people are attacked, someone is killed, it has to be revenged. That's a kind of that Kochery code they say, and all the Kocheries were brought up like that. And even the suicide squads, when you talk about in the, let's say, what we talk about, the suicide squad, which the LTT brought in, and later on now, Fidains later on. Fidains were inspired from LTT. The first one was LTT. So the forerunner for all this was, the Travancore king, starting from 1700, about 3 centuries back, he had a suicide army. It was called a Chaver army, means if anything goes wrong, there is a set of people who will go that in fight to death, last man, last bullet kind of stuff. They will not come back live. Either they win and come back, or they die. So Kochery has got a whole lot of things which kind of dictated the life of the society for almost 10 decades. So there's so many things to be told. This is actually in my future books also, there will be another version of aspect of Kochery which will come
over. So we can look forward to more books from you. So that is
sure, of course.
That is a promise, and Kochery in it, another promise.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I was saying, Shibu, I my way of character building is very different from yours, and that is what fascinated me, because I use a lot of emotions and physical attributes of the characters to define them. But you have, just bypassed all this, the emotions and the physical attributes. You start building the character from their childhood, or even before that, their grandfather. You start from their grandfather, and then you give the total history of that person, and you bring him to the present. So that was very interesting. I have I don't think I have come across that kind of character building. So, would you want to talk about that?
Of course, of course.
Yeah,
See,
yeah,
one of the things is when you write a book like this, let's say what I call toxic masculinity.
yeah.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
see, many of the readers do not like toxic masculinity in a novel. But in
Mm-hmm.
our society, much as you wish it away, it is a reality. There
True.
are many men who are toxic, and even men don't like them. But then, unfortunate as it may be, they are there.
Mm-hmm.
And second is, even though it is much rare, much
Mm-hmm.
more, uncommon, but there are,
Mm-hmm.
some cases of, let's say, unbelievable kind of behavior, even from women.
Mm-hmm.
So I do
Yes.
not know whether you have kept track. I've spoken about this before also. There's a case of this lady who's a
Mm-hmm.
double postgraduate in English literature and
Mm-hmm.
geography from UP,
Mm-hmm.
who killed her whole
Yeah.
family with her lover, and she's now declared sentenced to be hanged, and she'll be the first woman to be hung to death after independence if she's hung. As of now, even the president has turned her pardon down. The lady's name is Shabnam. This event took place
Mm-hmm.
in 2008. So
Okay.
when this event was reported in 2008, I did believe when they said there was a
Mm-hmm.
daughter in a family who has killed her
Mm-hmm.
father, her mother, elder brother, younger brother, her one cousin,
Mm-hmm.
and a brother's small child, some seven,
Mm-hmm.
eight of them. And in the night, she had called her lover, and she had sedated them and called the lover to chop their head off with an axe.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. When I read it, I said, no, this somebody else was done a
Mm-hmm.
crime and she's being fixed. That is the first thing that came to your mind. So as the
Okay.
story unfolded, and as you were following it in the media, finally it came
Mm-hmm.
about that she and her lover, for whatever reasons, had
Mm-hmm.
decided whether it is for inheriting the property and the house, or maybe doing away
Mm-hmm.
with all their people who are opposing them, or
Mm-hmm.
something else. The fact
Mm-hmm.
is that all the courts, all the people have found that she was the one who engineered the killing of a whole family. Something which is unbelievable. Even today, you find it difficult to
Right.
digest, even after 13 years
Mm-hmm.
of that event.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you bring in this kind of a novel wherein you're crossing the line and people are crossing the line,
Mm-hmm.
and invariably the line is crossed when a
Mm-hmm.
crime happens. So it was a
Correct.
deliberate
Absolutely.
design that I wanted to have all the characters who are involved in it to have a
Mm-hmm.
history and a background.
Right.
So,
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
like people say in Hindi movie, the difference between villain and a hero is that
Mm-hmm.
hero has a past and villain does not. So, as
Mm.
audience, you cannot empathize with the villain,
Yes.
but you can empathize with the hero. So, here the whole idea
Absolutely.
was to present all the characters in grey, and it's up to the readers to
Okay.
form their judgment to like or dislike them. So,
That
I agree.
that was a really very strong and very novel technique, I would say, of building the characters. And I would also like to know why you have skipped the emotional sides. Even when a woman is battered or violated, which has happened so many times in your novel, but
I
it
know.
doesn't yeah, it doesn't show a lot of emotional turmoil in her, or it doesn't have a lot of effect on her next action. So I would like to know about that.
Yeah, I know. That's an interesting point. I did dwell on this quite a bit actually. So,
Hmm.
in this case, let's say the heroine, the lady who's leading the show, that who's a
Yeah.
IIT, IIM graduate. She's
Hmm.
a businesswoman, and she's a kind of what I would
Hmm.
call a the as good as a woman can get. She
Yes.
lives life on her own terms. So
Right.
here comes the question. Now, she knows what has happened, and she
Hmm.
deliberately decides that she's not going to play by the book because what happened to her was not by the book. So the settlement will also be outside of the
Hmm.
books. She says if
Right.
someone else does this, the punishment is death. So when someone is capable of taking that kind of decision, they are not going to be emotionally battered because if they are, they will not take
Hmm.
those decisions. So it is
No,
a
I'm
strength
not
of
only
character.
talking about her. I'm talking about several others, her daughter as well, and
Yeah,
several others. And when you see, actually, I don't want to divulge the story. It is going to
yeah,
spoil
I know. Yeah,
spoil the reading. But many women, and also uh, it your characters. even the smaller tiny characters are not very bound by social taboos or things like that, like sexual fidelity and all that. It seems a thing of the past.
No, no, not in that sense. Okay, so let me put it this way: that see, in the let's say things are quite different. If let's say if you go to Sikkim, which is a background given,
Right.
one side that what has been, let's say that just without navigating anything. So I've been there, I've worked there, I've seen the kind of society and the culture there. It's a little different from rest of India. So
Yes,
that part.
yes.
And the second is, that when you come about, if you see the, let's say the two brothers and, your caste oppression, which has been a bane of the
Yes,
country, continues to
yes,
be even today. So
yes.
when you talk about people who are caste oppressed and when they come out and they're trying to break bounds, so that's why I said, toxic masculinity, a lot of it is an outcome of
Right.
the other side of the suppression. A lot of it is
Absolutely.
another side of the suppression. So
Mm-hmm.
what they will do, which is not something which a normal people will do, wherein you're saying that
Mm-hmm.
by design you would like to go ahead and do this. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
said in this novel. So if you pull out an incident individually, yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
may look out of context, but that the incident has been placed linked to a toxic character who has got a background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's a certain
I actually like your portrayal of
why the
women. Sorry.
yeah, sorry. So to that extent, it is not so much the crossing the lines in that sense, but what has been
Mm-hmm.
talked about is here the guiding factor is value system of individuals. So
Yeah,
what I'm
I
saying in
understand.
the whole book, the deciding core of the movies, the book is so
Mm-hmm.
in a society, where does one individual get a value system from? Family, society, religion, school,
Mm-hmm.
mostly, and in your formative years up to the age of 12. After that, there is a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other parameters depending on there is an individual, you as an individual decide how much of it you want to absorb. So a lot of us who come up in the society in the formative years, depending on how
Mm-hmm.
each of these factors have influenced you, will have a value
Right.
system which will not be kind of standardized. There will be a certain amount of
Correct.
variation.
Right.
So
Right.
the when you cross the line, also it is finally how much are you willing to stand for people whom you love, and how
Mm-hmm.
much are you willing to start for what you value in life.
Correct.
So
Correct. Correct.
normally the question is these are events which normally do not happen to majority of us in our whole lifetime, but it does happen to
True.
individuals maybe one in a million, once in their
Mm-hmm.
lifetime.
Right.
And those are
Right.
there are times when people look at this. So it's like the starting scene. Let's say to relate to the new age audience, it's something like
Mm-hmm.
a escape room. What children play these days. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a teenage girl who's been in a situation which is called an escape room. How does she get
Mm-hmm.
out? But here it is not just a game of half an hour. It's a game for her
Mm.
life. She has to get out
Yes.
and then save her
True.
mother, and so many other things get linked up.
Right.
So
Right.
that
Actually.
any of the events that is in the book, unless you link it to the characters,
Mm-hmm.
past standalone, yes, many of them will be questionable. I agree with you. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
them as standalone incidents, they are questionable,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
No, I'm not really saying that your characters are questionable. Actually, I like all the women characters in your story because they look very empowered. They are not cowered down by any violation or maybe of a physical relationship they might have. They have it and they move on. So I really like the empowered women you have in your book. Most of them are like that. They have their own business in mind, and the physical side of it is just something that happened, and then they forget about it and then move on. They are very empowered women. It looks like. What do you say?
That is yes, that is true. That's true. That's true.
Yes.
So what one of the things is that as society moves, that one of the things is
Hmm.
in the last 20 odd years, there are many of this,
Mm-hmm.
let's say IIT, IIM, or IT empowered women. So even
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about in small town girls who do an engineering, They come to
Right.
Bangalore or Hyderabad or Delhi somewhere and join an IT company. If they are intelligent, the company promotes them, and in our second or third year, she goes once to France, once to Germany, once to States and back.
Hmm.
She's a completely different person. She's,
Liberated.
in let's say liberated in many ways. Let's say
Hmm.
empowered, enhanced. So there
Yes.
are
Yes.
may not be enough in number, but there are there
Hmm.
people to be inspired from.
Yes. Yes.
So who can
Ac-
live life on their terms.
Actually, I
So
have liked the portrayal, the way you have portrayed the women in your book. And as much as the men are moving on, they are also moving on. They are not stuck to one thing. So, which is very very interesting. And also, uh, when you say that the book is about a lot about toxic masculinity, I think this is also a practical way of dealing with it. What do you say?
yes, I don't want to say it in as many words, but yes, I agree with you because it is like that. I mean, it's like the unfortunate as it may be, but
Hmm.
without such drastic measures, sometimes
Right.
it's fear is a key. That this
Yes, absolutely. And the
that there is.
social environment, what will people say, and all this.
So sometimes that you have to,
Hmm.
and in many times it will be put to practice. I mean, unofficially
Yes.
people know that, but there are times when you have to agree. What is the
True.
answer to such kind of stupid toxic masculinity otherwise?
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely.
So
That is
that
that
is
is why I loved your portrayal of women in your book. And it is kind of you know as writers, we always when we portray something, probably we come up with solutions of social issues as well. And I think you have subconsciously uh, given a solution to this toxic masculinity by just ignoring it and moving on. I think so. What do you say?
yes, yes, definitely that is one part of it. But at the same time, that
Hmm.
that's why that we say this is of course it's a very vast subject to just brush it under
Yes.
one brush and say it that's the solution.
Right.
I will not
Hmm.
take such big claim, but yes, I think that is also an important aspect because very many times that
Hmm.
it is lot of the time the problem more than the women is with the family. The
Right.
men of the family, if they support
Hmm.
her, I think these things can be overcome and people can move on.
Absolutely.
So, but then
Absolutely.
if it goes to the other side, like what happens in Nirbaya's case, where it is not only this,
Hmm.
there is you're almost kill that girl or such kind of
Hmm.
mindless violence. Then of
Hmm.
course there cannot be any mercy. There cannot be any mercy, and
Absolutely.
that the
Hmm.
so that's our society even in the past. Even if you see our cup panchayats, people
Yes.
do not like them because they're very vicious in the way they
Hmm.
very brutal and very vicious. But then that's only language of men folk understand. What do you do?
Yes. Absolutely.
So your the legal system which we inherited from the Brits is okay for the civilized and educated, but
Hmm.
for many of this the toxic masculine, especially from the Hindi
Hmm.
heartland, especially I mean
Hmm.
telling it's far more there than not that it's not there in other places, far more there.
Right.
So
Hmm.
this panchayats also like that. It's very vicious and very brutal, and for
Yes.
this reason,
Yes.
people do not
Absolutely.
understand any kind of
Hmm.
language other than very brutal and fear some kind of message.
Right.
So I guess
Right.
some of it is I agree that maybe one part of the solution, but of course there is a lot of education is what I call education, education, and education. Unless you
Absolutely.
educate the mind, you cannot liberate the man.
Absolutely. Um, Another thing that I noticed, that there was a lot of details, uh, like in the Heidel project place, which kind of I could not gather all of it. Then there was a place where there was another place where the police was figuring out and drawing pictures on the whiteboard, which was again a little bit difficult for me to understand how it is working out or the logic behind it. So, mm, What would you say about it? Because as a
See,
reader, if I don't understand, I feel a little bit, am I not intelligent enough?
of course, of course. I've been accused of this second time again. Many of the authors have complained that of course, I had diluted that when you the thing is like this.
Mhm.
When you search-based book, so in this case, when I talk about idle project, then whatever is written there is actually uh, substantive technical stuff simplified to a certain level. But I agree,
Mhm.
it may not run with every reader. Some of it may go a little above, unless you had an
Hmm.
exposure to that kind of line of work.
Right.
But as far as the police work goes, that's a kind of almost standard operating procedure. That
Yes.
whenever you're
Mm.
solving any crime, there is a big whiteboard, and you put down all potential,
Right.
the possibilities are put on board, and then draw, and then people discuss, and the various permutation combinations worked out. That's a kind of done
Right.
thing. So people who are probably again familiar with it will know how it actually works. But today's
Mhm.
audience, you get to see enough in those kind of any of those crime thriller series is on fair, if you see on
Right.
Netflix or other places, this can be a very common thing. It's that whiteboard stuff
Right.
with what the police use. Any kind of
Mhm.
serious problem solving where a group is involved,
Mhm.
you require it. Wherein you're putting in people put their thoughts together, and from there you make out something. Even I
Mm.
use it even while writing this book. So even while writing this book, or like you said,
Right.
there were so many characters and so many events and time and space. So I also had a
Yes.
whiteboard where I used to write which characters where at what time, when he
Okay.
started, when. So initially, till you get the whole thing in your mind as a novel writer, so
Yeah.
I guess that's a kind
You're
of
right.
reference point.
Understood. Another thing I wanted to ask you is that you have used dialogues, minimum dialogues. Was all that also by design? Because I was looking forward to some, interaction, verbal interaction, which I saw a little bit less in your novel. Not that I really missed it, but I noticed it, I would say.
I agree. It is again by design. So that is let's say, even in my first novel, I had this issue where there's it's more of, let's say, the events happening, or the events being
Mm-hmm.
narrative kind of style of writing without dialogues, or
Mm-hmm.
not without dialogues, but the percentage of dialogues has been relatively less. It is more
Mm-hmm.
than the first book. So
Yes.
of course, whatever I kept is by choice, when I thought is whatever is
Mm-hmm.
essential to be spoken to be
Right.
left. So
Mm-hmm.
second is, in this case, what I've done is actually, in the first chapter, the blueprint of the book is in the first chapter. So
Mm-hmm.
any discerning reader who reads the first chapter carefully and really
Mm-hmm.
carefully, you
Mm-hmm.
will be able to pick up the clues as you move forward.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you have not
Mm.
read it carefully, you will find it difficult as you go forward, and then you'll again have to come back to see where it links.
Yes.
So that is
Absolutely.
possible more with narrative style of writing. So some of it
Mm.
was the way it structured the book. So when you structure it both
Yeah.
in it's a non-linear narrative, so there is a variation in
Mm.
time, and then there is a whole lot of blueprint given in the first chapter, which is being picked up in various chapters and kind of peeled as you move forward. So to a
Correct. Correct.
discerning reader, it's interesting. Many of the founder readers have found it interesting. Okay, it's like how
Very
the author
interesting.
solving the puzzle.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And especially as I told you, that you are building the characters from their previous generation to today's time. So, in that, the other stories are completely absent. So, it is like first 4 5 chapters where you have introduced all the characters. It looks like that these are 4 5 short stories, and then actually everything links up, and then the main story emerges. It was a very interesting kind of way to deal with it, I thought. What would you say?
Yeah, of course, it was by again like by design. It was like
Yeah.
again I said if you read the first chapter carefully, and there is a clue
Hmm.
in every chapter how it links to the main
Yes,
story. So if the reader
absolutely.
is not careful in the each chapter, then at some point
Hmm.
you'll come back and suddenly find that one small event in each minor character's life is linked to the main story at some point. how the character
Yeah,
is
it,
getting.
it became a game for me, First 1-2 chapters, I read just like that, and then I saw your design, and then with each chapter I would start looking for a clue. Now here he's giving a clue. Now, yeah, here is the point where it links with the main story, and now we are again. This is the third one, so so it was like a game. It was very interesting. And also the computer games that you spoke about, and hacking and all that. You go from terrorism to games to advertising. You have not left anything under the sky that you have not touched upon. Which makes it very interesting and intriguing as well. I think we are running out of time, and this is my concluding question, Shibu. I could keep talking about your book, for another hour maybe, but then we have to conclude.
Sure.
I would like to ask, why did you name it Faith and the Beloved?
I, of course,
Yeah.
the title was not thought of in the beginning and then the novel written. Actually, I started writing the novel. It's only after I reached about maybe seventh or eighth chapter that this title came to me. Because as I was writing, because the way I
Right.
write is that I do character sketching, and before I start writing, so a lot of time is spent on researching on getting a character sketching. And after the
Right.
character sketching is completed, then I get
Mm-hmm.
into linking them up. So
Mm-hmm.
and then the plot, the finalization of what you see in the first chapter happened only
Right.
after I written about 8 chapters. I came back and revised and made the first chapter. So somewhere while
Okay.
writing that, this just came to me that it is. Then I said give the name, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
conveys what the value system that we're talking about. What do you believe in, and how
Mm-hmm.
much are you willing to stand for your loved ones. So, and hence the title.
Wonderful, wonderful. Shibu, it was great talking to you. And as I told you that I could keep on talking to you for another hour. Your book is that much intriguing and that much deep that we can keep speaking about it. But I guess I will have to hand it over to Mona.
Thank you so, so much, Shibu and Antara. We were very, very attentive listening to both of you in conversation. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again. Every time Shibu is in conversation with an author or a celebrity, we get new perspectives into the book. We get new insight, and it was very engaging. The discussion was extremely engaging, and so a big thank you on behalf of the Readers and Writers Club. And there have been a lot of comments over here, and I would really be very grateful if our viewers read Faith and the Beloved. It's a book really worth reading. You'll have a great time reading the book. So pick up a copy and don't wait. And thank you so much, Shibu. Thank you so much, Antara. You all are
Thank you
very
so much.
kind to us, very kind to Readers and Writers Club, giving us time, giving us the opportunity, giving us the exposure, and wish both of you and your pens all the very best. Have a very good evening.
Thank you,
Thank you so much,
Mona. And
Mona.
I would like to thank Shibu for being so candid and so open about his book. And though I hope we didn't reveal the story too much, I really enjoyed it, Shibu, and very, very all the best for the
Thank
book.
you so
And
much,
I'm sure
Andhra.
it is going to do a great, a great best-selling book because it's a page turner, unputdownable,
Thank you.
as I said.
Thank you. Thank you, Andhra. Thank you so much, Mona. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Readers and Writers Club. Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Shushrut.
Thank you.